Wow. Off to a good start. Muted the mic. Okay. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a movie review roundup. I'm going to be going over about, I think, 4 or 5 different movies. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So the first one that I'm going to be doing is going to be The Smashing Machine. It's going to be kind of out of order from the way that these movies came out in the theaters. It's just movies that I saw recently that I'm going to be talking about. So it'll be Smashing Machines, one of them, and then I have, let's see how many more. One, two, three, four, five others, including Smashing Machine. So I got six to talk about. So with the Smashing Machine in particular, let's get to this review. This movie, I expected it to be great. It was just good. It was kind of missing a little bit of a oomph to it. The biggest talk around this movie is how the what's it called? Hold on, let me restart that. With the Smashing Machine, I expected this movie to be great, and it was honestly, in my opinion, it was just good. But it was a very good, if that makes sense. It wasn't great though to the likes of, in my opinion, the Iron Claw. I feel like that movie is a great movie. The whole talk around this movie, The Smashing Machine, is that The Rock is in a transformative performance, everything like that, and he is. He truly does become somebody other than the character that we know to be of The Rock in all his movies. He's the same guy that wears the same tan T-shirt in every movie, and he's always in the forest somewhere. He's not this guy at all in this movie, and he does a really good job. Emily Blunt does a good job as well. Ryan Bader, who plays Mark Coleman, does a good job. However, because I know Ryan Bader as the fighter and I've watched him fight for so long, and I also know Mark Coleman as the fighter, it was hard for me to kind of get out of that mindset that Ryan Bader is playing Mark Coleman when I just kept thinking Ryan Bader is Ryan Bader. But for an actor that, in to my knowledge, has never, or I'm sorry, excuse me, for a fighter that to my knowledge has never acted before, he did a really good job as well of just being the support system for Mark Kerr. And so with this, it's about the beginning of Mark Kerr's career, like the first couple years. I thought that was going to be like going into it. I was thinking that was going to be the first half of the movie, and then the second half of the movie, the last hour, was going to be the back half of his career. And it wasn't. The whole movie took place over 3 years, and I don't necessarily know if I like that because there's times where it felt like they dragged on one particular time for too long, and there's times where it felt like it cut over a particular time very quickly. And maybe that's just how his career was. Maybe he was just out of the limelight for a minute, and so they kind of had no other choice but to then skip over certain parts. Um, so with this again, though, I think it's very good. I don't think it's great, but I think there is a great movie in there somewhere. I think the acting is great though as well. And Benny Safdie directed it. His brother actually has a movie coming out in the next couple weeks, and they directed Uncut Gems together. So these guys have a pretty good, solid track record as far as movies go. And I'm excited to see where else they can go. In particular, Benny Safdie, who directed this movie, where else he can go in his directing career. He's got The Rock coming back for another project that The Rock has lost like 70 pounds for. So I think instead of the Oscar buzz being for this movie, The Smashing Machine, I want to see if The Rock can, in a way, I don't want to say do it again because it's so hard to get away from what he's used to doing to do this movie in particular, and he does such a good job at it. But it's still in the wheelhouse of combat sports, kind of like his wrestling. He's very familiar with the UFC, so he's not necessarily out of his element, but he like as a person, but he is out of his element in the acting portion of things. But he does a very good job. So I think with the next movie, if he can do all this again, but better from what he's known for or from what he's learned in this movie, The Smashing Machine, I think for sure he'll get another Oscar contender. He hasn't been confirmed to get an Oscar for or an Oscar contender for this movie. Although it's granted, I think he deserves it, but I'm more looking forward to his next movie with Benny Safdie. I think these two are going to be a good partner collaboration working in the future. I think The Rock definitely pushed himself to be something different and to do something different in this movie, and he did a really good job. So I give this movie, and also I'm an MMA fan, so I'm naturally going to go into it with kind of a bias, whether it's good or bad or indifferent. So I give The Smashing Machine an 8.5 out of 10. All right. After The Smashing Machine, we have, oops, not that one. Okay. After The Smashing Machine, we have Kiss of the Spider Woman. So I saw Kiss of the Spider Woman. I knew nothing about it. The only thing that I knew about it, or that I yeah, the only thing that I knew about it was that it was Jennifer Lopez in it, and only thing I had seen was the I never even saw the trailer. I only saw the poster, so I thought this was going to be like a horror thriller mystery type movie, and no, it was not that at all. It was a musical, which I mean, I don't mind musicals. That they are what they are. There's some really good musicals and there's some really bad ones. However, this one I think is right in the middle. I guess this was a passion project for Jennifer Lopez, and she actually got the help of Ben Affleck to fund it because Lionsgate didn't want to put up all the money for it. And you can kind of tell in this. I think there's elements where it's like it's supposed to look fake, and when I get to that, I'll just get into it now. The whole movie is about this. I forget the character's name, but there's two guys in a jail. One guy just recently put in, and he's supposed to find out information that the other guy that's already in prison has, for this revolution that's taking place in Argentina in the 1980s. And in order to get the guy to open up, this new guy, I forget his name. It would be better if I remembered his name, but I forget. This new guy has to get Diego Luna's character to open up, the guy with the information. And the way he does that is by explaining his favorite Hollywood movie. That Hollywood movie is The Kiss of the Spider Woman. So this is like a movie within a movie. And that movie is a musical, which then makes this movie a musical. So it's an interesting story, I guess you could say. It's like I don't know. There's nothing too crazy about it. It's nothing that hasn't been seen before. I don't think. Like I, or as far as similar stories go, it's not a story that is like brand new. You see these kinds of stories all the time where somebody has to tell somebody else something that they like, and that gets them to discover a side of themselves that they didn't know that they had. So it's very common. The music was good. The music was catchy. I would say the costume designing and the set pieces were great. Like I don't think a lot of people have been talking about this movie for an Oscar, but I think for sure it could get a nomination for set design and costume design. I don't see why not at all. However, just the story itself, it does start to drag a little bit. I believe this movie is just barely over 2 hours, and it really doesn't need to be. This can be condensed down into like an hour 45. But with that, and again, it's a musical. I'm not going to go out of my way to see musicals, but usually every time I watch one, I'm pretty pleasantly surprised, or yeah, pleasantly surprised. And I was surprised by this one. Again, going into it expecting it to be a thriller or a murder mystery or something like that, and getting a complete opposite of that, I was never actually bored. So, but with that, if I had known what it was going into it, I actually might give this movie a higher rating. But this wasn't a bad movie at all. I'd recommend seeing it, but you don't need to go out of your way to see it either. It's not like a performance of a lifetime for Jennifer Lopez, even for any of the actors. However, the acting all around is very good. So I give Kiss of the Spider Woman a 7.5 out of 10. Okay. After Kiss of a Spider Woman, we have a movie that has actually come out that came out last month, but I didn't talk about it. One Battle After Another. This movie, how do I want to say this? One Battle After Another is the new movie from Paul Thomas Anderson, whose last movie was Licorice Pizza. Very different spectrum of movies. And I've only seen a couple of Paul Thomas Anderson movies, but he seems to kind of jump around a lot, and I like that in a filmmaker. This movie is very well acted. This movie is very well directed. This movie, I do actually kind of love the story once it gets about like 45 minutes to an hour into it. And this story basically, you could kind of just say it's almost like Taken. That Leonardo DiCaprio's daughter is taken from her, and he has to go find her. But he's not this awesome agent that knows all of these tricks and wits and everything to get his girl back from the bad guys. He's just your average dude, and so I like that aspect of the movie quite a bit. The beginning of the movie is very political, and it's seemed to be one sided on the politics of it. However, it was brought to my attention recently that this movie was made like a year ago and probably written 2 years ago. So the fact that life just happened to imitate this art in this exact timeline, time frame, however you want to say it, that makes a difference. And before I gave this movie a lower ranking because of that, I was like, oh my God, this is so clearly one sided. For if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. And so they're enticing political violence and things like that. And really, that's just the guy was just making a story. And this was 2 years ago now, long before any of this stuff with ICE, or like, I mean, Antifa was still around, but before like the ICE things were shot up, things like that. That was all just recently, and this movie just happened to come out around that time. So it is kind of crazy in the ways that art imitates life. An example of this is when like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the TV show, had a pandemic that was going to happen, and then a pandemic actually happened. So things like that. And once that got brought to my attention, I was like, okay, I think I could rewatch this again. And I was going to rewatch it either way, but I think I could rewatch it again and not care as much about the politics at the beginning of the movie. And I try not to do that anyways. Like sometimes it's just blatantly obvious, but I do a pretty good job of being able to pull myself out of it, or whether I agree or disagree with it. And when I first saw it, I was like, okay, like this is annoying, but whatever. It's not the whole movie. And so I still liked the movie overall. And again, the acting is great. Leo probably going to get another nomination. Sean Penn will probably get a nomination. I think Benicio del Toro should get another nomination, or should get. I'm pretty sure he's been nominated before. But anyways, I think he should get Benicio del Toro should get a nomination because his character, he's just suave and cool. Like he's just a likable dude, and he's funny in the movie. You have a good time watching his performance, and so I think a majority of everything in this movie is going to get nominated for Oscars. It's going to be acting. It's going to be adapted screenplay because this was based off of a book. It's going to be set design. It's gonna be everything. Visual effects probably even because they do a lot of practical effects, so it could be that. So again, going back, realizing that hey, this was filmed a year ago, probably written 2 years ago. Who I don't even know how old the book is. I went back and gave it a higher score than originally. Originally, I gave it around like an 8 out of 10. And going back and thinking that way, as I just mentioned multiple times now, I'm going to go ahead and give One Battle After Another an 8.7 out of 10. I still have to see it again to see if I think it's better than I actually remember it being. It is almost 3 hours long and it didn't need to be. However, it keeps you engaged. To me, anyways, I was engaged the whole time. If you go into the movie tired, then obviously you're not going to be engaged. But I was engaged. The politicalness of it from the beginning didn't throw me out of the movie completely, and I was still able to enjoy the rest of what I saw when I was there on opening night. So again, One Battle After Another, 8.7 out of 10. After One Battle After Another, we have Tron Ares. Tron Ares, man. Okay, with this movie, I was so excited to see Tron Ares. I'm one of the few that genuinely love Tron Legacy. And I rewatched, or excuse me, I watched for the first time the first Tron just the day before seeing Ares. So I watched Tron for the first time and then I watched Tron Legacy again. And I can see why some people didn't like Tron Legacy. I think they changed the story up a little bit from the original Tron. But however, I do feel it followed through on its title, acting on the legacy of the first Tron movie with Flynn, his son, everything like that. And they set up a clear sequel at the end of Tron Legacy. Now, I wasn't expecting this movie to be the sequel to Tron Legacy, but I wanted it to include at least a significant amount or at least lead into what could be a Tron Legacy sequel. And it just didn't. They did little things to kind of keep you there and be like, oh, okay, they mentioned it, so like maybe it'll lead somewhere, and it just doesn't. And the whole movie is honestly, it's a waste of time in my opinion. I walked out of the movie. I was like, I don't want to go see this again right away, but I don't think it was terrible either. And I still don't think it's terrible because visually it's there. However, just a lot of black and reds, so I just don't like this movie, and it's pretty rare for that to happen for me, especially in the series of Tron, which I love Legacy. And after watching the first Tron now, I really like that movie too, considering how old it is. And so Tron Ares is about the grandson of the villain from the first movie that created his own grid like Flynn, but it's like it's bad guy grid, so it's only black and red. There's no brightness to it at all. He creates Ares, Jared Leto's character, who is supposed to find the permanence code so that way they can live for 20 or longer than 29 minutes outside in the real life. And somehow he finds a connection with the woman that took over NCOM. That's Jeff Bridges' character's Kevin Flynn's company, and they just write off his son Sam Flynn. And so at the end of Tron Legacy, they're like, "Hey, you're gonna take Cora, the girl that Olivia Wilde played, who's an ISO. She's got a different genetic structure that can help change things in the world. He's gonna take her out of the grid, and then they're gonna go change the world." Well, what they do at the very beginning of the movie is say, "Oh, Sam Flynn has a mystery woman, and he left the company, and they just disappeared." Like, what? If there's something in there, there's a story just in that moment that's like, hey, Cora has something in her that if it gets into the wrong hands, which it looks like it potentially could, because maybe there's a secret organization within NCOM that wants to do bad more than good, whatever it may be. We have to go into hiding now. You could literally explain that with the characters, and it's fine. Just to say he left is lazy writing, and it's a way just to write off another straight white male because Disney fucking hates those guys. I'm one of them. Um, just another way to write them off. And this does exactly what The Force Awakens does. And I genuinely love The Force Awakens, but this does what The Force Awakens does. And it takes everything that the people loved about the prior movie and just shoves it all in a corner and just goes back to rely solely on the original when the original didn't even have a large following to begin with either. So, and I don't mind that you're following from like trying to do a follow up, I guess you could say, to the original. Like this is more of a follow up to the original than it is to Tron Legacy. However, don't shun away the fans of Tron Legacy, just like The Force Awakens and the sequel trilogy kind of shunned away the fans of the Star Wars prequel trilogy. That's not cool. Like you're all about inclusivity, include every one of the fandoms. Like there's a way to combine those two movies, Tron Legacy and Tron, and fit it with this new Tron Ares with what they were trying to do in the story. And so again, it just, I don't know, that part didn't sit well with me. I didn't like that at all. I did like, however, the idea of the grid coming into the real world. However, I was under the impression it was the grid, not this fake phony grid. But either way, to have the elements of the grid come into the real world, I think was a fascinating topic to go on because we've never seen that happen. Both times a human went into the grid. And so like I was like, okay, this could be like a Jumanji feel where the game is gonna come out to the world. And it felt very small. There was a light cycle chase and the big ship, I forget what it's called, the receptor or something like that. It's literally just that, and then some new little wing jets for like the grid pilots, I guess you could say. So it's just or two sequences technically, and the characters. Like it's not the true grid with all like the fascinating spectacle of it coming out and taking over the real world and digitizing everything. Like there's so much more that could have been done with that idea, and they just did not act on it at all. They just said, "Hey, let's have one cool action sequence that honestly really isn't even that cool." So I was very disappointed in that. The visuals are good. I'll give the visuals their props. However, again, the difference for me is that Tron Legacy, you had greens, you had blues, you had yellows, you had oranges, you had whites. There's all these different colors that just pop in Tron Legacy, and I'm sure on 4K it looks even more amazing. This is red and orange and some more red, and then they do a throwback to the 80s style, which is like, okay, like that's cool, but that's it. Just like they didn't continue to expand off of what was expanded on in Tron Legacy. They just went back to the old one. It's like, okay, come on, do better than that. There's an easier way to do more, and there's also a way to just to not rely solely on the like. Okay, honestly, I'm going off topic here, but do you think anybody from the fucking 80s went to go see this movie? No, and those that did are those that talk about movies for a living. So the whole thing frustrates me. The soundtrack was okay. It was Nine Inch Nails. It wasn't bad. I don't not like Nine Inch Nails, but I'm not going to go out of my way to listen to them. However, with the soundtrack, I felt like they were trying too hard to blend the 80s nostalgia in music and the Daft Punk score and their Nine Inch Nails sound all into one instead of just making a Nine Inch Nails album. Now, again, I'm not big into Nine Inch Nails. Maybe that's just how they naturally sound. I'm not too sure. But Trent Reznor has done much better scores. I think the score for Social Network was better. I think the score for Gone Girl was better. I know Atticus Ross has done a couple different scores by himself as well. That I just felt they've done better work, and this just felt like they copied it with an AI influence, saying like, hey, like you could copy my homework but change it up a little bit. It didn't feel original. There are some good songs in there though that they have, or some good soundtrack scores. It wasn't what I was hoping to be on all levels of this movie. Same thing with the acting. And I didn't even get to this part. How do you have a movie called Tron and Tron's not in the fucking movie? What, like, what? Tron you could have easily had Tron be the Jeff Bridges cameo. You didn't even need Jeff Bridges in that. And I hate saying that because I really like him in Tron Legacy and in Tron. Or you could have both of them, Jeff Bridges' character Kevin Flynn and Tron, in there when Jared Leto goes into the original grid. There's so much that they just left out that it felt like they didn't even take the chance to try to work into the script. It's just like, oh, people have been waiting 15 years, so let's just make something to make something. It's like, no, don't do that. Put some effort into it. And I felt like this movie had very little effort. The person that put in the most effort was probably, oh Jesus, I don't know. I mean, I guess you could say Jared Leto because he's supposed to come off as a robot and he does that very like autistic robot style. It's the best way to say it, I guess. He does that well. And his character has a decent arc, and there was a moment in there where like his color changed from red to blue once he became the good guy, and I like that. I was really looking forward to seeing that. But it just, so much of this was just unoriginal, and you can see how like unoriginal and lazy this movie is based off of the character that Evan Peters plays. He literally just does a copy of something else, but it's shittier. And that's exactly what this movie is. It's a copy of trying to do two other things that were great, but it was worse because they ignored one of the things that made it great, that being Tron Legacy. So again, with this movie, was not a fan. I hate saying that because I do genuinely love this franchise, and I really want to go to Disney World to ride the Light Cycle ride, but it just, I wasn't impressed. I walked out of the movie more sad than happy, and with this movie, I give Tron Ares 5.5 out of 10, and that's being generous. Okay, I should have brought a water in here because that was a lot of talking. After Tron Ares, we have a movie that I just saw yesterday, House of Dynamite. Okay, let's see. Well, let me check this real quick. Okay. House of Dynamite was a fun movie to me. Honestly, like it's a kind of a scary movie in a way, and I'll get to that in a second. But I think it was a great movie. And the last thing that I saw, I know Catherine Bigelow directed a ton of stuff. The only thing that I know, like right off top, is The Hurt Locker, and that's because when I watched, it, I was like, "Holy fuck, this movie's crazy." And I kind of felt that same feeling a little bit in this movie, not quite as much, but that feeling is there. And what this movie's about is it's about um, honestly, how easily things can go to shit in the military in the United States. I'm sure it's like that for every country as well, which is why we're all kind of scared of one another, especially when nuclear war is involved. But it shows that like, hey, if you have one small misstep, it's gonna fracture everything and it's all gonna come crumbling down. And so that's the intensity in this movie that I loved. Another thing I loved about this movie is that it takes place, so it shows the different perspectives and angles, for, so like one half, or not one half, sorry, one part of the movie is like, okay, this person's like the lead in this section of the movie, we're going to go through their life and their story and what they're doing and whatnot, and then while they cross intersect with the other people, you're going to know the conversation. So when it goes to the next person and it's going to show their perspective, it's going to keep refreshed in your memory. So they did that, I think, 3 or 4 times. And I really like that. I think the editing for that is a very hard thing to do. And the acting for that's very hard to do as well because you have to react those takes multiple different times in the same exact way. So it's hard for all the actors, in my opinion. I mean, I'm not an actor, so I don't know. But I think for that, I think this movie has a shot at getting nominated for best editing at the Academy, but or at the Oscars, the same thing. But again, this was just it was just a fun movie as far as like a political thriller goes, and I would say this is a political thriller, and it's not based off a true story or anything like that, but it just to show how easy it is to crack the system is crazy. And so with this movie, what they're trying to do is they're trying to stop what they think is a nuclear hit to the United States, and they show how they would intercept it. And in both things that would intercept that missile, they go wrong. They only have like a 61% chance of succeeding, and both of them failed. And so, but they also don't know at the same time. They don't know what country launched it. So they're assuming what country. They're trying to talk to other countries at the same time, like Russia, and then they're trying to get Russia to talk to China to see like, hey, who launched this at us? And nobody knows. And it could be fake. Like they can't visualize in on it what it is. So it could be a fake missile and just to scare people to show how easy it is for us to freak out and go to the worst case scenario and just go crazy. And so I think that's a very fascinating concept because it's real. Like you saw it with the pandemic. Once they announced it was a pandemic, what happened? All people went crazy over toilet paper. Like, bro, if you're out of toilet paper, just go take a shower after you go to the bathroom. What's wrong with you? So, with that being said, oh, oh, with that being said, this movie. What, oh, yeah, okay. Dang it, where was I? I forgot what I was saying. Damn it. With that being said, this movie, I think, deserves a lot of credit. It's going to be on Netflix, but I think people should go see it in the theaters. And I had a really good time with it. And I think you will too if you see it in the theater. So I give this movie a solid 8.7 out of 10. Okay, got that there. And then we're coming up on the last one. I feel like there's something else that I wanted to say about that movie and I completely forgot. Okay. Well, it's okay. We'll get to it. After House of Dynamites, we have. Oh, let me get rid of that. Roofman. Roofman. Oh, man. Okay, Roofman. I had a lot of fun with this movie. And so these scores that I'm giving for these movies are going to be based off of my enjoyment in seeing in watching them, not necessarily like, oh, it's cinematic, it's the best acting ever, it's the best directing ever. It's nothing like that. It's just purely based off the enjoyment while I was watching it. And Roofman, I really enjoyed. This is based off of a true story. It's about the guy that robbed a bunch of McDonald's. He also robbed some Burger Kings and some other things. He got caught, went to jail, but then escaped jail and lived inside of a Toys R Us for 6 months or 6 or 7 months. And but in that time, he created a bond with somebody else. When enough people forgot about him a couple months into hiding, he was able to kind of to go outside as long as he had like a helmet or a hat on and glasses or whatever. So he was kind of unrecognizable. And so once he was able to go outside, he ended up developing a relationship with a Toys R Us worker that he was kind of like watching over and listening over while he was there. And so he kind of just started living a whole second life. His family, or not his family, because his daughter didn't really have a chance, but his ex-wife had kind of forced his daughter away from him to stop talking to him while he was in jail. And so he kind of just felt like he was alone, and he ended up having almost this second family. And so with that, this movie was a lot of fun in that all the actors are very charismatic. You care for all of them. Even Peter Dinklage, who's kind of like an asshole, you end up feeling for him at the end and kind of happy in the lesson that he learns because the guy Jeff, the main guy, robs the Toys R Us he was living in around Christmas time for 6 months. But then you see the fear strike into Peter Dinklage's character, who's like your stereotypical asshole manager. And so with that, you then feel for him, be like, okay, hopefully in that experience, he learned his lesson. And just the fact that this guy was like, hey, I don't want to be here. I'm gonna find a way out, and he sure found a way out and was able to get away with it for so long. And if he didn't slip up in the moment he slipped up, he could have gotten away with it, and he could still be out there right now. And Channing Tatum has said apparently like this guy still he is a criminal, but he is a good dude. Like this guy's known for being like the criminal that cares for people he robs. And so it just an overall good story. I think it's a heartfelt movie for sure. It's over 2 hours and it can feel kind of long. The only reason to me, in my opinion, why it felt like it was a longer movie than it should have been is because I saw a 10:30 showing at an AMC and those fuckers have 30 minutes of trailers before they even get to the movie. So it was like past 1 o'clock by the time I got out of the theater. So I think that's the only reason why I might have felt like it kind of dragged a little bit. But I felt like there's a lot more that could have been added to it as well. So that there's, I think it's probably about like 30 minutes before the movie ends. It feels like they kind of just skip over a bunch of stuff, and I was like, oh wait, wait, did this happen or that happen or this happen or that, and then or this could have happened instead. And so it felt like kind of towards the end they started to rush it a little bit, but it didn't take away from the movie at all. This is a really good movie, and please go see it in the theaters if you can, so that way movies like this can still be supported because we need these like I guess smaller movies to be supported to get the bigger movies. And so and it's also it's just a fun time. Any like if you see this with a crowd and the crowd's laughing at the same things, then like you don't then you don't think back on yourself if you're laughing at something dark at home, be like, oh, am I a bad person because I laughed at this dark thing? No, when there's other people around you, you feel incentivized to do it because you understand that this is just life and that's just how it is. So Roofman, again, I loved it. I hope to see more movies like this. I would say this is probably Channing Tatum at his best. He does serious well in this movie. He does comedy well in this movie. As I said, he's charismatic along with Kirsten Dunst. And there's a very stacked cast. Ben Mendelsohn's in this movie. Peter Dinklage, as I mentioned, Juno Temple from Ted Lasso's in this movie. Lakeith Stanfield from Get Out is in this movie. So there's so many people in this film, and they all do such a good job, regardless of how big or small their part is. So I would say definitely go see this movie if you can. This is my favorite movie of the month of October so far, and I give this movie a 9 out of 10. Okay, so with that, everybody, that is the, I believe, sixth movie. Let's see, House of Dynamite, Tron, One Battle After Another, Kiss the Spider Woman, and Smashing Machine. So these are my movie review roundups along with their scores. Well, Smashing Machine didn't get 9 out of 10, but okay. So we had Smashing Machine, Kiss of the Spider Woman, One Battle After Another, Tron Ares, House of the Dragon, or not House of the Dragon. I have the thing HOD, House of Dynamite, and Roofman. So these are my movie review roundups. I have a ton more that I want to be seeing in the month of October in this back half of the month. I'm seeing two movies this weekend. That's going to be um, Black Phone 2 and After the Hunt. I can't wait for those movies. I plan to do reviews on those. I want to do reviews as much as I can, but sometimes it might be easier just to see a bunch of movies and then do a review roundup because I got a lot going on. So with that, that is it for me. That's my movie review roundup. Let me know if you've seen any of these movies. If you haven't, go check them out. Even if you want to, I shouldn't be saying this, but even if you want to movie hop and kind of steal some money in that sense, don't do it like the criminal though from Roofman. Don't do it like Jeff. Um, but go see these movies in theaters, support your local theaters, and just have fun at the movies. Let me know again if you've seen any of these movies. Let me know your ranking. Let me know if there's any movies that you think I should see that I did not mention in this movie review roundup. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.